Hello, beautiful soul. I'm Vicki Howie of ChakraBoosters.com, the creator of Chakra Boosters Healing Tattoos. And I listened to you guys. You said you like these energy forecasts that I've been doing, so I'm doing one now for March 2019. And I'm really excited that I'm doing these this year because, wow, things are moving. Some themes are continuing. One of the themes that's really continuing is this idea of beginnings and endings. And we're not just talking about small beginnings and small endings. We're talking about big cycles here. It's reflected in the astrology. We have a lot of new moons at 0 degrees in the sign, and that's just been happening. And what this is telling us, even in April when we have 29 degrees for the full moon, it's another sign that it's just about endings and beginnings. These are completions. So I've also talked to people and been seeing that this energy has actually been coming through. Everyone's been feeling like, wow, I'm done with that. I've finished that cycle. I'm excited about what's coming up. So of course there's always more to come, but right now, right at this time, we're having a lot of endings and beginnings. And so as I said in the last video, it's about asking yourself, the distinction I want to make for you is around the lower chakras, it's about boundaries, and it's about completing material or physical world relationships that aren't supporting you, or at least just don't resonate with where you're going. And it's not, and I want to be really clear, it's not about putting your shadow on someone else and judging them and being resistant and unhappy. It's not about this putting a wall up because you're unhappy with something. It's about literally just completing a cycle, completing a karmic cycle, any kind of cycle for you that says, I don't want that anymore. It doesn't serve me anymore. And when you can get to a place of true neutrality around it, neutrality, where you're doing something positively for yourself, then your boundaries come from a place of self-love and protection and well-being instead of boundaries of pushing something that you don't like away. This is very important because we're coming into Piscean energy. Pisces is the 12th sign, and Pisces is all about inclusion and acceptance and love for all. I mean, it's been through it all. It's the highest 12th sign, right? It's the wisdom, and it's the heart. And it's a sign of unconditional love and being connected to the divine and recognizing the all. So we, at this time, do want to come into our boundary lower self because we are in a 3 universal year. So it's very important. You're going to want to set boundaries, but they can't come from a place of enemy energy. Got that? That's really important. They can't come from a place of rejection or energy of enemy. Okay, they need to come from, boundaries need to come from a place of self-love, completion. I've seen that pattern a lot. It doesn't serve me anymore. I'm done with that. These kinds of things. And you can see as I say it, I'm not saying it with a charge. It's not, I'm so sick of that. Now I acted that out because I want you to see, I'm so sick of that. I'm so tired of this. You feel that energy? That's a fighting, resistant energy. If you're in that energy, there's still some shadow work that needs to be done around that thing that's showing up for you. Because just closing the door on it over here, it'll open up over here. But if you are looking at the cycles and you're learning and taking responsibility and taking action for yourself and extending your self-love more, extending your love of other, like understanding more where the other person is coming from, and yet still saying, but that's not my resonance, and just putting a loving boundary up, that's completed. I'm done with that karmic cycle. You feel the difference? That's real important. So that's important. But boundaries are for the lower chakras. What boundaries are for the lower chakras, for the physical world, where you literally need to close a door, change a relationship, stop a relationship. A marriage can turn into a separation or a divorce if that's truly necessary. partnerships break up in business, these kinds of things. And they're not always fun, but when you do them from a place of self-love and you don't do them from a place of making the other wrong, here I am again explaining it, because it seems like my guides really want me to get this point across, because when you make the other wrong, all of us are connected, and it keeps the karmic cycle spinning of you not accepting that part of yourself, and you then inviting another person of that same energy, another situation of that same energy back into your life. So since this is all about true completions coming into March, this is Pisces energy of wisdom and having hindsight and foresight, just great sight. It's important that everything that you're doing in your completions here comes from a place of self-love, a place of love of the other, at least understanding of the other and not making them wrong or necessarily separate from you. It's interesting because we do need to make separations in the boundaries that we create. Because in the physical world, who's around us affects us, and when we're done with certain cycles, we need to just stop. Like, a child doesn't stay in kindergarten all the way through school. They graduate into upper grades, you know. You even grow out of your beds. You grow out of everything in your life. And even though we stop growing as adults in a physical way, we keep growing, sometimes even more spiritually. So we constantly need to find the right fitting bed, the right fitting job, the right fitting bedroom. We constantly need to, if we keep a job, keep a room, redecorate, find the new thing that really works for us, right? Because we're always expanding, and we need to support that expansion. So in the lower chakras, we're talking about boundaries. In the upper chakras, we're talking about forgiveness. And I already talked about that just a little bit, where I was saying how the Pisces comes from a place of love and understanding. It's way past I'm right, you're wrong. It's way past that energy. So if you want truly to finish, you want true completions and true new beginnings, check in your life where you are making wrong of the other. You don't need to make wrong in order to be aware that it's not good for you. That doesn't make wrong of the other person. That just means their energy and what they're doing is for them, but not for you. Can you feel that difference? My guides keep stressing this over and over again. Jeez, I can't even seem to get on to the next thing. So it's obviously very important. It's such an important Piscean cycle right now that I want to make sure you actually get the completions that are ready to come through in your life, the karmic finishes. So these are sometimes things that might have come from childhood, might have come from past lives. These are big completions. Now, of course, you may be also having smaller completions, things that more recently started and then you finished through them and you're done. But even those things that seem like they're smaller, they may actually be a small example of something that you've been working with since childhood, or something that's been a larger cycle going in your life. It's funny, I keep crying, you guys. There's something here about release. My eyes are just watering in this video. Okay, so the first thing is we continue this theme of beginning and endings, big ones. Look for them. Hold personal rituals where you literally honor them. Because when we honor endings and beginnings, we give them ritual, we solidify them into our conscious self more. So even though our spiritual self, our higher self might be very aware of this, our conscious self goes, I am setting this now here with this ritual. So have more rituals around the beginnings and endings that you're clear on. Journal about the beginnings and endings. What's ending? What's over? What no longer serves you? What are you open to? Now on the beginnings part, there's going to be a lack of clarity in some places, and that's okay. If old things come back, old dreams, big ones, and they serve others, and they rest on healing or unconditional love or principles that are undeniably good for all, then those are sound right now. Those are coming in with the Piscean energy. If nothing's coming in, it's your job to keep open and have faith and trust and listen and notice. but to still allow the completions to come, because sometimes we need space. Sometimes the completions have to happen. Like you'll be in a relationship and you complete that relationship, and then you need time. You can't just jump into the next one. You need time, you need reflection, and then you go into the next one as like this newer version of yourself, this more expanded self. So right now, if the beginnings aren't clear to you what it is, for instance, we're going to have a Pisces new moon on March the 6th at 8:03 a.m. Pacific. Now I'm giving you Pacific time, so the date may even change forward or backward depending on where you are in the world. So please make that adjustment. I'm in Pacific right now, so I'm just using that one as the guideline. So on the 6th, we come into a Pisces new moon. The Pisces sign is about pretty much completion. Being a 12th sign, it's about wisdom and honoring. And yet it's coming into a new energy. So that also supports the idea that these completions are going to be big, and the things you begin are going to be big. They're going to be another larger cycles that serve everyone. They're also going to be real world though, because we're in a very real world energy right now of the 3 universal year. So hopefully when they come to you, I think they will actually come. Like if you had a dream before, anywhere from, they're showing me 7 to 11 years ago, if you had this dream, and it could even be from childhood, but if it was more recently, it's might have been from 7 to 11 years ago when you had this dream. And this time when it comes back, it may be coming with actual action steps. And the action steps may not, because I'll get into Mercury retrograde in this period in March, but they may not seem very logical, or you might see the first 2 steps and you know there's more, but you don't know what the other ones are. That's okay. That's totally okay. Are you willing to trust? If it's coming from the divine, if it's coming from the divinity in you and your connection to the all, are you willing to trust, to step out? I'm getting a picture of, you know, Indiana Jones when he steps out on that invisible bridge and then the bridge shows up. It's like that. Except instead of the bridge being totally invisible, you're seeing like the first 2 feet of the bridge and then it looks like it's dropping off. So are you willing to step those first 2 feet, those first 2 steps? Are you willing to like take action with what you have, trust, listen, wait, and be ready to move on the rest? And I don't mean wait a long time, because again, this is an energetic year. This is a 3 year. It will come. And in fact, they're showing me, my guides are showing me that when you act on the first part, you set in motion. So it's almost like dominoes, right? So the first 2 dominoes are you can see them. And if you play them, they'll knock over the next 2 if you push it. And then all the invisible dominoes, as they get touched or as this momentum comes near them, they glow, they show up, they show up, they show up. But it's the actual action, because again, we're in that 3 universal year, and that's why I'm seeing the dominoes, I think, which is we're in a year of momentum. We're in a year of action. We're in a year, I think I told you in the last video that it's best to course correct, or maybe I told you that for the year. You take action and then you course correct. Being inert is not very good. But we do have a period in March, a big one of Mercury retrograde. From the 5th of March to the 28th of March, we're going to be in Mercury retrograde. So a lot of people in the spiritual world put out a lot of bugaboo energy around Mercury retrograde. I don't see it that way at all. So I would really like to have you re-look at Mercury retrograde as a spiritual being. Because if you're watching this, you have the spiritual orientation, and I want you to make the most of Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde is just a time when we need to be more aware of our day-to-day, you know, sort of the mundane mail, email, computers, our day-to-day communications that function on a mundane, objective, physical level. We have to really watch those. We have to watch contracts. We have to watch legalities. We have to watch that kind of stuff. And if we can, we take a break from those things to a certain degree. But for someone who's more spiritually oriented, like I know you must be, it's actually a vacation from those things. You can be a little more aware of them and actually take time to be less on the computer, less dealing with to-do legalities and contracts and taxes and things you need to get done. I know it goes to the 28th and we're working with, we've got an April 15th deadline in the US. But what I do want to say with that is you can do taxes because taxes are re-looking at the year before it. They're anything RE. Retrograde always reminds me RE, where you are re-looking at, receiving, reanalyzing, renewing, it's like going back and you're just re-looking at everything. So anything that's in Mercury retrograde is good. And almost all of March is because it goes from the 5th to the 28th. So this simply means that it's time to, even though we're moving forward, and we're getting permission from these Piscean insights to take some action. We don't have the big picture yet, probably. If we do, you won't be acting on it all in March. You need to be very, methodical and a little bit, and double checking of things that you do in the communicative, business, mundane, day-to-day world. But you also, if you can, I would also like you to try to reduce the hours you're spending on that and increase the hours of spiritual insight. With the Pisces new moon coming on the 6th, we're inviting in a very wise, higher perspective. And we're initiating the energy in that. Boom. Because it's a really strong one this year. If you look at any astrology readings, big astrology readings, you're going to see new all over everything for this new moon. Now I know that's not new to have new at a new moon, but this is new Piscean energy. And it also comes with, we have both the moon and the sun in Pisces. We have both the masculine and feminine, both sides of self, both the inner and the outer, right? So another thing you're going to want to look at is renewed, new relationship with your two sides of yourself. This is a chance to do deep relationship healing or relationship shifting, because all relationships begin within us. So this wisdom of coming from the Piscean new moon, that Piscean perspective, along with a bit of the slowing down of the day-to-day to look deeper, along with, just those two are the main things. That's going to really give us some energy with the Pisces moon and sun, with both of them in Pisces, to have this deep, the 12th sign, deep respect and love and like a spiritual relationship inside yourself with your masculine and feminine. Now, I don't want those to just be words. So what does that look like? Just as I don't want that to just be words, I also don't want to label it with one thing and have you think it's only that thing. So it can be many things. So if your intuition is telling you what it means for your feminine to have a good relationship with your masculine, or your masculine to have a good relationship with your feminine, please comment, let us know, share, let's get some different perspectives. But I'll give you an example if I can. One of the things where when a woman has a really good relationship with her masculine is that she can stand up for herself, but it doesn't come off, it's not defensive, it's just strong. It's just really strong. Her masculine side comes up because and will do so quickly in protection and respect and love of who she is. So it's like if you're a woman and you feel your masculine comes up stronger, like now you can protect yourself without having to feel, strained in doing it. You actually feel your inner strength. You actually feel that part of you that's proud of you and protective of you. Can you feel that? And it comes up quite easily. For the men, it's a willingness to love and honor the feminine, the more gentle side, the more intuitive and psychic side, and just to really, really honor the beauty. For men, it's your ability to see beauty, to have beauty, to feel beauty and sensitivity. Can you honor that? Can you put aside all the voices that you were culturally trained with that made that wrong or not masculine, and actually have that side of you sort of hold you, that feminine in you. Or have the feminine. For men, it might look like the feminine in you when you start to celebrate in an emotional way more of your achievements. That would be the feminine going, yes, you're doing great, right? That's like your own feminine doing that. For the women, it might look like for the masculine to really, for the masculine to support you, it look like your masculine saying, you can do this, you're safe, you got this, and then giving you the strength to really show up and do it. Now, those are just a few examples, and they're literal. Because again, there's this literal thing happening this year, where even though we're so connected to these upper energies, particularly in this month of March where we have this Pisces new moon, it's in a very tangible way. It's asking to, or for us to take action. It's not theoretical. I almost don't know how to explain this. It feels so cool in my body. There's like this really strong coming together, as I said in the beginning, of masculine, feminine, of spirit and the physical, of inner world and outer world. They're all like, they're inviting and coming together like puzzle pieces. And this is creating completion and then the beginning of something new that can be really, really strong. Now, because of this Piscean energy, I'm also going to say something kind of obvious for March, which is it's a good time for you to cultivate all of your psychic abilities, all of your higher self abilities, your highest divine feminine. So all of your clairs, right? Your clairaudient. And by the way, I want to point out that many of us think that we aren't psychic because we're actually looking at the wrong modality. We're not owning the modality that we have. I'm not so visual. So even sometimes when I say I'm seeing something, I can't explain it, but it's almost kinesthetic for me. It drops into my knowing, into my body. I don't necessarily visually see it, even inside. And yet it's so real for me in my kinesthetic and feeling sense that I do see it. It's like like when you translate, like I know when I speak French, I didn't learn it when I was young. So I actually am thinking the English word, and I'm always translating the French through English instead of through the object itself. Okay? So it's a little bit like that. You may actually be kinesthetically wired. You may be feeling, you may just feel things and know things through your body. You may hear things, sounds, that may be how you take it in. You may see things. You may actually be clairvoyant, which means seeing. So there's all these different ways, and you can know also in a knowing kind of way that isn't even really kinesthetic as well, too. It is kinesthetic, meaning in your body. So work with the clairs, work with this month. And if you don't know how to begin, journal your dreams, journal your intuitions, and play with oracle cards. Go find yourself a great deck of oracle cards if you don't already have one that you really love, that just looking at them excites you, and play with them. Draw a card, create ways to do readings, get intuitive even with the way you use the cards. Now, if you feel really comfortable with rules and want to use it with, say, there's rules in the cards, use those. But I'm inviting you to play, because this is a time of testing, because we're completing things and starting things. And whenever you're completing things and starting things, you're in a realm where it's really good to test new things. And by no means is it because everything you're going to test is going to stick. I just saw like spaghetti on a wall, like you're throwing spaghetti on a wall. Not everything's going to stick, right? The al dente spaghetti is not quite done yet. It's going to slide down the wall. Okay, and some of it might stick and you can barely get it off the wall, and you'll be like, I don't want that. It sticks too much. But what I'm saying is you're testing. You're giving yourself permission to play and to test. The symbols that I got before the reading that have nothing to do with the astrology, but just from my guides, were I got 3 circling hawks, which had to do with the ease and the way right now that, I mean, hawks are in the physical world, they're flying, they're creating results, but they're doing it with ease. You watch them, they barely flap. They just put their wings out and they ride the thermals upward. that's what's happening right now. We have really, especially this month, because we have this Piscean energy that's intelligent and moving things, but it's moving things outside the norm. That's why we have this huge Mercury retrograde that's slowing us down to take us deeper into reinvention of ourselves, reanalysis, reviewing things, who am I now, all of that. We spend time doing that. In fact, my guides just showed me just now something really cool. Let's say you go to a business meeting, a business talk, like with one other person at lunch. In other months or other times, or just because our culture is this way, you may sit there and follow an outline or what it is that you guys need to cover and get really into all the business aspects. But this year, or I'm sorry, this month, in March, it's going to be super beneficial if you just end up talking about deeper topics and you don't really get very much to the to-do list. I know that's going to bristle up against some of you, and if it's natural to do the to-do list, or it's natural to talk the business talk and also maybe pepper in personal things and deeper elements, great. But additionally, I want you to feel into this. There will be times when you go to do business or you go to complete something and the Piscean energy is going to take over, and if you allow it to, something deeper is going to happen out of that. Because the truth is, we think we do things logically, but we usually do them emotionally, even business. We are connecting with people emotionally, and then we're justifying it with logical reasoning. But we're really making our decisions on an emotional level. So you could, by going with your intuition and going with deeper connection with people, the qualities of Pisces, forgiveness, unconditional love, connecting on a deep soul level. If you do that and you allow that to lead the way, I'm seeing that all the rest of the little, to-do-y kind of things will come into order. And this all fits with Mercury being in retrograde most of the month, because normally we would go in and go, well, we got to do this and this and this and this, and we have to make, we get all our ducks in order. But we have to let go of some of that when Mercury's in retrograde, because when it is, it's going to get us frustrated, right? Because typically, if we're pushing on those real world buttons too much, those communicative things, we need things to arrive at a certain time, we need contracts to be signed, we need to get this done, it's not going to work when Mercury is in retrograde. Those things tend to. Now, if they work for you, that's great. It could be lining up with your chart in a certain way. Great, super. But just don't over expect it, so that you can make the most of these deeper Piscean energies that are moving through the month. And in fact, if you follow them, I'm seeing that you're going to come out at the end of the month with these deeper, better relationships, and you will have actually moved forward even in your business endeavors, even in the things that are action oriented, more than if you try to fight, and I'm seeing bricks now, like building a house, like we're trying to actually build it, physically with the bricks. It's more like you spend this month really getting deeper and building relationships, and then you call everyone right after Mercury's out of retrograde, and they all come, and everybody puts some bricks on, and the whole house is built way faster. Because if you'd just been trying to put the bricks on, you would have trouble with the cement, trouble with the foundation, with the layout, with the blueprint, you know what I mean? It's like, that's the best way I can explain it. So if things flow for you, because we are in this 3-year, if things flow for you through March, and you're taking physical action, and you're doing communicative things, and you're staying on business, great. That's fine. You can go with that. But I just don't want you to think you have to. If you align with someone and it goes deeper and it's more personal, and you get a little off topic, and it goes in being off topic, it goes deeper, allow it to. That's actually benefiting you. The house may even get built quicker that way. Through the example I gave you, you're making deeper relationships and you're serving deeper needs. Okay, so just as we have the new moon on the 6th, which is when you light a candle and you set your intentions, and these will be high, wise, unconditionally loving intentions for your highest soul because they're Piscean, we then have a full moon in Libra on March 20th. It's March 21st in some parts of the world. It's March 20th at 5:42 p.m. in Pacific, which is what I'm giving the example of. And Libra for me right away comes back to the balanced scales, which for me, because I'm tantric and all about the chakras, comes back to the masculine feminine. So I think that in the new moon, with this Pisces energy coming in, and we have Pisces sun and moon, and they're very close to each other in the chart, in their degrees, I feel like if you do what I'm talking about, where you're really having your masculine honor your feminine, like literally thinking inside yourself, what does it look like for my masculine to honor my feminine? What does it look like for my feminine to honor my masculine? And especially looking at the one that's the opposite of your gender. So men really looking at what does it look like for me to allow myself to be nurtured by my feminine, and women saying, what does it look like for me to allow myself to be protected and championed by my masculine? Okay, my masculine, me championing myself. Men, by my feminine, me loving and appreciate my sensitive side. I've been shown that. I repeated it even from the beginning again now, so it's very, very important. If you're doing that, the Libra full moon, I believe, is going to be a cultivation point of that, because the new moon to the full moon is a short 2-week cycle when we can have some really beautiful completions. And I think you're going to see a lot of growth in the balance between your masculine and feminine if you set that intention around the Pisces full new moon time, then by the time you get to the Libra full moon. And of course, the Libra full moon is coming on the 20th. For many of us, the 20th is the spring equinox in the northern hemisphere. Elsewhere in the world, it's fall, right? I understand that, but it is an equinox. It is a turning point of the seasons. So you want to acknowledge that in the fullness of that moon. What does that mean for you? And again, what's come to completion? And what's starting. For those of you in the northern hemisphere, what's starting is super important because it's spring, and it's when it's about things beginning again, about that energy of new start over, right? So really, really feel into that. Let me see what else I have here, what I haven't covered. I want to make sure I cover all of it for you. I know it's been a lot, but it's exciting, exciting time. There's so much happening. I mean, we're talking big cycles. We're talking other life cycles finishing, like for many lifetimes. You guys, I think that's it. I think that's really it. You're going to want to look at the Pisces new moon, the Libra full moon, be aware of the Mercury retrograde and working with that. Be aware of the equinox and working with that, and what that means as it becomes darker in one part of the world and lighter in another part of the world. Whichever part you're in, it's about, you know, feeling into that. In fall, it's a different feeling of letting go and letting things die. In the spring, it's planting things and starting things, and you're moving forward with what you want. Feel into that for you, for where you are in the world. But most importantly, we have one more month, and I'll talk about this more with you in April, but we have one more month of going into this energy that's been going for several months now of really, really big endings and new beginnings. I ask you to acknowledge yours, write more, do rituals, really be aware of them, because when you're aware of them, when you honor them, they take hold on a much deeper level. Just like a small child, when you acknowledge a small child, because there's this part in us that wants to be acknowledged for these completions. When you acknowledge a small child, they beam, you know, they get all yay, and they want to do it more. And so that's really important. Acknowledge, what are you done with? And what are you desiring? What are you envisioning? What have you been envisioning maybe for 7 to 11 years, or perhaps since you were a small child even? It might be a lifelong vision that you're desiring, a lifelong dream. Now is the time. It's a very magical time for finishing and beginning. So I'm so glad to share this with you. I know a few things were repetitive, and where they were was where my guides really wanted to hammer it home, because I doubt you're going to watch this twice. So where I repeated, that stuff is just emphasized, okay? I love you so much. I thank you so much for watching this and for being a part of my tribe, for all of us growing together and doing this conscious work to make the shifts that we're making in ourselves and on the planet right now. Collectively, we are creating heaven on earth. Have a beautiful month.